It was the middle of the night when I reached the back patio. My 3 roommates greeted me excitedly. A deer hung beside them, tied up by its front hooves. Its neck was at eye level, and its hind legs jutted toward my knees. I noticed no blood on the thick fur. Glassy black eyes stared forward. There were plenty of projections I wanted to pin on her, wise, peaceful, but the deer was pure, nothing more or less than just what it was. Graham stepped beside me, his breath visible in the winter air. Neat, huh? It's beautiful, I said. I placed the mitten on her chest. Through the knit wool, I could feel the animal's warmth. I reached my arms around her body, resting my cheek on her chest long enough to take a couple breaths. The intimacy was not reciprocated. Graham pointed to her hip. That's where she got hit. There was a streak of blood on the fur. Now I could see that the left side of her body looked off, slightly mushy, slightly askew. The guys told me about being pulled over, how they'd use the deer to hide whatever else they were driving with. This was a highlight for them, outwitting the police. Their story emerged, the thud, how the deer had come out of nowhere, how heavy the body was when they carried it to the trunk, and later into the backyard. Anders was driving. He felt connected as soon as he realized he'd killed an animal. He'd gotten out of the car and placed a hand on the deer's warm chest, just like I had when I first laid eyes on the body. The deer was dead. They could have just driven away, but that didn't feel right. Wanting to do something, they focused on the meat. After sitting in the police station with drugs in their pockets, filling out paperwork to register the deer, they were giddy. Anders woke me with a few abrupt shakes. No, get up. We hit a deer and we need your help. Graham was the only one of us who hadn't grown up in the suburbs. He had seen a deer slaughter, so he was the resident expert. All right, he said, and slit the throat. A small amount of blood dripped onto the frosty ground. Josh wanted to be the one to cut open the animal's belly. Just don't cut so deep you slice the intestines, Graham said. Josh rolled back the cuffs of his leather jacket before plunging the knife deep into the deer's chest. Gripping the handle in his fist, he pulled the blade straight down, and black contents of the intestines oozed out. A horrible smell wafted from the animal. The meat was ruined. Just keep going, man. Nothing you can do now, Graham said. Josh cut until the flesh was split from neck to tail, then stepped away from the soiled animal. Graham began scooping out the guts with his bare hands and dumping them into a bucket. Josh, Anders, and I backed away from the stench while Graham worked as quickly as possible. With the contents of the bowels covering everything, we didn't even get to appreciate the shapes and colors of the different organs. The deer was still just a deer. I wanted it to mean something. With the meat ruined, the guys refocused their enthusiasm to the skin and the head. I just wanted the experience, anything that made me feel a little high. Anders hooked his arm through mine, huddling close for warmth. Graham made the first cut to the membrane that joined the skin to the flesh. Flaps of skin flopped across his hands, blocking his view. I untangled from Anders and stepped forward. Do you need help? I said. I pinched a piece of fur and pulled the skin back until the tip of the knife was exposed. I plunged my hands even deeper into the tissue. The animal was still warm, and I was amazed by how good it felt on my numb fingers. I breathed over the animal's shoulder to avoid the stink. Since childhood, I had seen deers from afar, hoping that white puff of tail wouldn't retreat so quickly. I'd never had a chance to be so close. Here she was, so I took advantage of the opportunity. There was little talk as Graham and I worked. The light from the basement shone on our spot at the center of the universe. Past its circle, the world was unseen. When he reached the side of the deer that had been hit, blue, purple, and red blood distinguished it from the rest of the body. Someone else's turn, I said, stepping away. For the first time that night, I felt tired. Graham kept at it until the skin was freed. Once the ropes were cut and the animal was lying on its side, he gripped the deer's face in one hand and cut through the neck until the head separated. The guys bagged the carcass and put it in the trash. Anders held a hammer in one hand, picked up the deer head with the other, and trotted around to the front of the house. I followed. One nail through the ear, and the head hung in the winter night, dark eyes reflecting the streetlights. It was beautiful. It was also strange, the deer's face sticking out a foot from the pediment. I would never have done that, but I had nothing else to propose. When we returned to the backyard, Josh was shoving the hide into a metal trash can full of water. "Do we have any bleach?" he said. "I think you can preserve the skin in bleach and water. You just have to let it soak for a few days." Maybe a little," I said, "in the basement." Josh strode across the yard, holding the bottle of bleach with 2 fingers, jiggling the liquid. The 4 of us stood around the trash can as he dumped what was perhaps a tablespoon of bleach into 10 gallons of water. We were all trying so hard. Thank you.